And that was our intro. I forgot the music on it. It's been too long on this. Dang it. How are you, Tyler? What's up, big dog?
I I'm hanging in here watching some playoff baseball. But yeah, it's been we were saying right before we started, it's been we don't know how long.
Yeah, we lost track
Since
of time.
yeah, several weeks. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute, but we're here. We're talking minor leagues today. You can see the background, the road to the Blake Street. Thank you, Lewis, for that again. Lewis made getting out there on the pods. He was on the Rockies Now podcast a few days ago. He
Our budding star.
right, like
He's coming along.
our little minion there, just going from place to place, doing his thing. So if you don't know Rockies Now, they do a fantastic Instagram. They have a podcast now. Our boy Lewis is on it, but Rockies Now is just a good follow. Good guys over there. They're fans first. You can tell when they're talking. So they're good people over there. And we're just here. I don't know. We have one day off in like the last 7 months, and so Tyler and I getting together, talking prospects. From this to that to all the things in between. It has been a hot minute. But before we even get to that, the playoff baseball. The first two rounds absolutely sucked.
Yeah.
Stop me if I'm wrong.
It was just pointless, I felt like.
It was terrible. Like, it was no good games. They're all blowouts. The 3-game series at the beginning were, I don't think it mattered. Like, it was sweeps across all four of them, I think, except for one. And then the division series. I've just been disappointed in the playoff baseball.
I think at least these championship series have been really good, like that, especially the Astros Rangers series. That is like peak playoff baseball. The Phillies Diamondbacks one is interesting. I'm glad it's a series. I really did think the Phillies were going to take it in 5, but you've got the D-backs who have really made a solid push. They're looking respectable. But leading into this, it was a lot of stuff where, yeah, I was not that intrigued by what we were seeing. I will say though, I'm actually glad, maybe contrary to popular opinion, that all like the top teams got eliminated. I just love that. Like, let's get the teams that are not really supposed to be going to the World Series, defying the odds, making it that far. And not that really the Phillies or the Astros are defying the odds, but the Rangers coming into the season, I think people were like, are they going to be in the playoff hunt? The Diamondbacks, nobody really thought they were going to be in this position. So it's really cool to see those two teams. Looks like we're going to see their opponents making the World Series, but this has been a nice championship series at least.
Yes, it's been fun. The chaos that was in Houston and Texas with Adolis Garcia and Abreu back and forth, which he definitely beat him on purpose. But we'll get into that some other time. I just love the fact that the Dodgers lost. They got swept. Yeah. They were out quick by the D-backs of all teams, but who cares? It's the Dodgers. We played 3 more games than we did, and we're still at home and we're not doing anything. So like they have to figure something out. Like they have a lot to figure out themselves.
Yeah, we could do almost like a Blake Street banner pod talking about the Dodgers, like from the Rockies' perspective. There's enough there where you're like, this has been the same. It's the same record playing on repeat now for what feels like 10 years, that they have been like, they're the best team of all time. They're the best. And it is a really commendable dynasty that they're winning 100 games almost every year. But there's just nothing to show for it. And exactly. They have to change things up at some point, given the resources and overall the brilliance that they do bring in that front office. They are a really, really well put together organization. It's just, I mean, fortunately for us, but unfortunately for them in the game of baseball, like they can't win in the postseason. So
it's unique, right? Like neither Rockies and they have a Mickey Mouse ring, right? 2020 World Series, and that's all they have to show for all the success. So like, at what point do they start rebuilding or doing something different? Like, is Dave Roberts on the chopping block? They have to go down this whole line. The same kind of stuff the Rockies kind of have to figure out. It's just a different light. Like it's almost you're spoiled, but then how much spoiled do you take that list up to where you have to like take a step back and kind of reset? Like, I don't know. It's interesting. Do you want to win 100 games and be in the playoffs all the time? Or do you want to miss the playoffs for 50 years and get that one time and win the World Series? It's kind of the debate we're in.
Question.
So it's fun. So the Dodgers are out, and that's all that just makes me smile a little bit more.
That's all I root for.
You know what else? You know what else makes me smile, Tyler? Is love. So we are a Rockies prospect pod today, and our boys Dugan Darnell, Noah Davis, are engaged. Like in the last 48 hours, 36 hours, they are officially engaged. So Dugan proposed, I think, in the last few days to his longtime fiance, and Noah Davis was out somewhere. Like I don't even know if he's in America, and he like did it big and proposed to his girl. So huge shout out to Dukes and Noah on their commitment to love going forward. So just I had to get that in there. Like our guys, they're just growing up in front of us. It's adorable.
So what we all do this for. You see these guys year after year, month after month, and it's there's a human side to that. We talk about that a lot. Human side to it. They're playing this game so that they can really have a full life, and so those are really, really awesome things to see.
There's still that other part of it. All right, so we're done talking Dodgers, done talking love. Let's talk Rox. So let's get sad for a little bit. But breakout prospects. So 2024 was a pretty unique season. Like you and I were super huge on the starting pitching going into the season. I remember talking to Pat and K-Dub. Like, all right, we got the starting pitching. You can go like 5-6 deep at each level. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be fun. And then it kind of went to the crapper pretty quick, like 2 or 3 starters per. You didn't know what the 4th or 5th starter in Albuquerque was going to be. And so we had that. And then we had breakout stars with Amador and Yekiel, Jordan Beck. Keep going on the list. We'll talk about most of them. So it's a weird season. But as always, it is a recap. Like, who are some of the breakouts that we should all be pretty excited about that we weren't quite aware of in March or April?
I think I'm split. Because I've been eyeing the draft guys that we took. And so obviously, you think back to the beginning of the season and those were not on the radar. But when you see the seasons on the pitching side, at least, that Sean Sullivan and Seth Halverson had after being drafted, I think both totally fit the bill of a breakout. And I'll focus more on Seth Halverson because he actually got all the way to AA. And that
which is insane.
Itself is really what makes him a breakout. He wouldn't have made it that far if he was not absolutely shoving. And in the end, the guy's numbers were pretty crazy. 2.7 ERA, and again, he touched 3 levels. 13 Ks in 13.1 innings. He throws hard. He's someone you could see in the big league pen, like maybe next year. Yeah. Obviously they have no real reason to rush him, but clearly he's got the stuff going. So he's someone. Of course, at the beginning of the season, nobody knew about him. So in a way, it kind of cheats our framework here of like, who did we not see coming early on? So for me, on the pitching side, at least, it's Seth Halverson. But Sean Sullivan was unhittable too. So both those guys deserve some cred.
Halverson was kind of a quiet, sneaky good pick. Just with you had Chase Dollander, his teammate down in Tennessee, and then you have Halverson, who was at what, 4th pick, 5th pick?
I think he was like 6th. I think he was like 6th round pick.
6th round. So a little bit later, and then you see him getting the quick call to Fresno, and then Spokane, and then Hartford. Like you said, like all 3 levels in those 13 innings, and the fact that he hits 100, we don't have that in Colorado at all. So having that with Michael Peterson, see what that can come up with, some of those big triple digit heaters. It'll be exciting. Yeah, I like that pick. I like that Halverson pick. There's my pitcher. I could go either way, kind of like you. Didn't really have either one of our radar. We didn't know who Zach Agnos really was as a pitcher because he came from East Carolina as a dual guy, shortstop, hit dongs. That was where he was at. So like, how does he actually pitch and do his thing? Then there was Carson Palmquist, like, who nobody was talking about, and then just coming in hot in high A Spokane and getting strikeouts galore. Like I think 90% of his outings had like 8+ strikeouts or 7+ strikeouts in his outings. It was just insane stuff. And then you have Evan Justice, who went literally just up the ladder and made his major league debut this year. But I gotta go with friend of the pod. Maybe a little bias showing again. That's what I do here. But Zach Nagnos, friend of the pod, he was on our Fresno recap at the end of September. Just the fact that he came in, led all of minor leagues in saves, which you can debate or not, but it's still impressive. his very first full year as a pitcher, and he talked about that like this. It's different. Like I have to come in and actually pitch. I have to look at scouting reports. I have to learn how to read this guy. I have to learn how to trust my catcher. Making sure I'm on the same page with that. It's 100% pitching. Where when he was at East Carolina, it was I'm playing shortstop. I'm looking at coach. Am I coming in late? What do I have to do? I just have to come in, throw some heaters, and try to get him off balance. Like it's just different. Where he was saying you're going 9 deep, who could take you yard. It's just professional hitters constantly and trying to be on top of that in those high leverage situations. I think that's impressive, and just being able to do that again, low A, whatever, just being a pitcher for the very first time and doing that well, I think has to give some props. So I think he's my breakout of 2024 on the pitching side there.
Yeah, and absolutely, it really like it's impressive to see the guys, as you're mentioning, with the high leverage that they're raised up as closers, because it is a bit of a different game than just coming in the seventh. You have an assignment to do. Like when you come in and your job is to shut the door, a lot of the time with a 1 or 2 run lead, there's a whole different side of pitching when it comes to that. So I think Agnos is a good pick, especially I think he was either the 9th or 10th round pick last year. So again, these are not guys who are necessarily supposed to come in and become impact players. Like sure, they're going to be able to stick around for a couple of years, move up a little. He was really, really good. I mean, he did set the franchise record for saves down in Fresno. Like that for a 10th round pick, he is off to a fantastic start.
And just being trusted to go all season to do that. And like, should he have been called up? Probably, but Fresno was also making a playoff push, and like there's more high leverage in that. But just being able to be called on all season to be that closer is huge. Like we saw Hartford, they went to 2 or 3 different closers throughout the season, like between Darnell, Justice. I like him. Who's a guy from Tigers? But there's
Nick Kuzia.
Kuzia, yeah, and like they went through all 3, and Zach Agnos was just that guy all season long, and that's impressive in itself.
Yeah, the future in the bullpen is absolutely coming along, and we don't need to get into the whole history, but all these pitchers that they're taking, there's enough that's going to pan out. And Seth Halverson, Zach Agnos, very likely going to be part of a future bullpen at some point. And Agnos set himself up. He could easily be ending the season in Double-A. He's going to get that high A start. And after not stalling out, but after they stalled him in low A, you have to think they're willing to make that quick push to Double-A if he starts the season off well. So both those guys, 2025 bullpen, you could almost pencil that in right now that both those guys could be in consideration for that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Who's your hitter? Who's your breakout hitter?
In the process of us talking about this, I had to make a switch to Braxton Fulford. I originally was thinking in other directions.
Friend of the pod, I like it.
Like Braxton was just a guy this year. I don't think people were really expecting him to do a whole lot with the bat. I think there was this expectation he's a solid catcher and he's going to hit enough in the minor leagues. But dude, man, had a 377 on base percentage, 841 OPS. It was really, really good stuff across the board. 10 home runs is nothing that jumps off the page, but he did that basically in half a season's worth of plate appearances. He had an injury. He's a catcher, so he's just not playing every day. So 10 homers in 78 games, that's basically a 20-homer pace. We're looking at a pretty complete catcher. I think he's going to get the job done defensively. He made it all the way to AAA, which was awesome, and he hit a AAA homer. I think he had 4 hits in AAA, his little 3-game stint.
Yep.
So we now have another guy who is right there in the mix to be on the MLB roster come like early summer next year. It could be June or July that he is now on the Rockies roster. We have a whole lot to talk about on that catching front another time. We're not going to get into that right now, but you have this weird catching situation where I've sort of been pushing, like, is Brian Serven going to stick around? In a way, you can look at Braxton Fulford as a big reason why you could do anything at the catcher position. He is basically ready. I don't think he's going to push for the opening day roster, but he could be there in a jiff.
Yeah, I mean, I think we said it. I've said it for sure. You might have echoed it, but it's definitely a Romo Fulford future 1-2 backstop in Colorado. That's just with what Braxton's been able to do over this last year and a half since he got drafted. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and you stack him up with a lot of these catchers the Rockies have had come through in recent years. You look at Brian Serven, who kind of an odd case since I think he was a 2017 draftee. Like he was drafted a long time ago, and just kept on his grind, steady work, got his opportunity. You look at Willie Mack, but it's someone like Braxton Fulford has really stood out to this point.
Yeah,
he hit in Double-A. He absolutely crushed high A. It was crazy what he was doing down there. And then, he made his work in Triple-A. And from all indications, he's a fantastic receiver. So he looks like that guy who can be a high-end backup catcher, which that doesn't sound great like anyone who's a backup. But being a backup catcher, you have to be good.
Yeah, you do.
Your position is really important.
Yes, you do. Go right on that. Renee of Purple Row actually just wrote a report about Austin Wynns and how important that backup catching role is. It's really good. Go check that out on Purple Row. It's on the Twitter. She released it this morning. Over there, I completely agree. And friend of the pod, doing his thing, and he's a fantastic dude. I love him, and just everything about him, how he carries himself. I like that pick, and I like how you went out there and you just kind of throwing it in there. My breakout hitter. I mean, there's so many ways that you could go. You can go Yankiel, you can go Jordan Beck. You could go Sterling Thompson. Even you can go down the road, but I think I got to give some props. I'm going Skylar Messenger. I wanted to say Coco Montez making his, he just dominated AAA all year. Aaron Schunk figured out this season that he knows what to do and how to hit. Again, he's coming back to what he was drafted for. But what Skylar Messenger did down in AAA is just absolutely insane. As a late 19th, 20th round draft pick, just bombs for days. What do you have? 18 on the season. 78 RBIs, that 839 OPS. I don't know what he is in the future. I don't know if he's part of the future. It's just awesome to see these late rounds picks. I have his things up here, just doing things. Yeah, 19th round out of Texas, from Colorado kid. So if you're listening, you enjoy that part of it too. It's just kind of the out of the woodwork, nobody type person doing his thing. And going out there and just grinding and understanding what it means to be a professional and actually walking the walk and then talking the talk right behind it. It has to be recognized as well.
Yeah, no, I like guys like him getting a shot. He was drafted. I think he was 23 and a half when he was drafted, and that's very old for a draftee. Most of those guys are barely 21. Some of them are even 20 getting drafted out of college. And I mean, that's the whole name of the game, is find the young guys who have some projection left in them. And Skylar Messenger, he falls in the draft because he's 23 and a half, but that doesn't mean he can't potentially contribute. And yeah, do we expect him to be a big league guy and make an impact? That's shooting for the stars, but can he continue to be a stable presence in the minors at the corner infield spots? And these guys are all dart throws. 3 years down the road, maybe he has just pushed himself like a Sean Bouchard. Sean Bouchard was in a similar boat. He was drafted a lot higher, but he came up at an older age, and no one really thought Sean Bouchard was going to make an impact. And here we are. He's had 2 really good stints at the late in the season, and Skylar Messenger can't rule those sorts of things out. So really awesome story. Just the fact that he came into this organization mostly because of that Colorado connection. But he's proving I did deserve to be here. This is not just because they knew about me when I was in high school. This is a guy who has worked to get this opportunity and really lived up to it in that first season in Fresno.
And he's taken full advantage of it. That's the thing, taking advantage of it, not taking it for granted. He seems like he works hard in the clubhouse. Our boy Steven Rice of Fresno talks very highly of him and is very impressed by how Skylar just carries himself as a young professional. And we could have gone Zach Kokoska, same boat. Before he was injured, he was raking up in high A, very mid round. He switched to first base so he could actually play this year because he saw what the outfield had with coming in, and so he's like, "Yeah, I got to switch up." And he was outstanding. And then you got Jimmy Herron at AAA, who He's that Sean Bashard type. He might be knocking on the door next year. Might be a nice little sleeper there. It could have gone multiple ways. Like shoot, Alaris Montero in AAA is a season to talk about. So many breakout hitters, but I think your Braxton Fulford and Sky Messenger, I think, kind of sum up the season pretty well. And with that, like the extended season, Arizona Fall League, it's fun. I haven't been able to watch any games. I watched the playoff games. I was like, we're talking off topic or off recording. I have about 30 minutes to myself each night, 45 minutes before I get to sleep. And so it's playoff baseball or it's whatever crappy football games on late at night. And I'm watching that and then pretty much going to bed right after. But the Arizona Fall League is up. All the top prospects are in it. Like if you name a top 100 prospect, there's a 90% chance that dude is playing in this Arizona Fall League. And so let's talk about the Rockies a little bit. I want to touch base on Jaden Hill first. So Jaden Hill, we all love him. He's coming in from Tommy John. Probably has some of the best stuff in the system, but just was not able to figure it out as a starter this year in high A. I think he got past 3 innings, maybe twice. His stuff is electric. It's still there. Control was a little bit of an issue. Trying to get through the lineup was kind of an issue. And so I was thinking that maybe he's going to go try to be a reliever. They're going to try to send him as a reliever in Arizona Fall League. And I was right, Tyler. I was right. He's been in 5 games, 5 innings pitched. And in that time, he's finished 2 games of those 5, has 5 strikeouts, 2 hit by pitches. And that's another thing, 2 walks, but has a 1.8 ERA in that time. Jaden Hill, we all wanted him to be that starter, that knockout starter that we have been just wanting to have in Colorado for the longest time, since Ubaldo probably. Early Herman, like we're just dominated, but he's not going to be that guy. But did we find maybe a late inning 8-9 guy in Jaden Hill, like trying to just actually work with what we have instead of trying to force him to what we want him to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's now sort of his floor, and not that he's going to be the lights out 8th inning guy, but that his floor is okay. He's probably able to get to the big leagues with his stuff as a reliever. But I will say also that those starts in the Fall League are pretty tough to come by, especially since it's the schedule is pretty tight. I think they want to have regularity. They have 4 guys on that roster who have only started games. A lot of the other guys are making openings, things like that. So I think in a way this is more him getting innings than it is him being completely relegated to that bullpen, because there's one guy on the team, Wilmer Flores, not the MLB Wilmer Flores, but he's probably the top pitching prospect for the Detroit Tigers. And he had a pretty tough year, although he had a 3.9 ERA in double.
His stuff is nasty. I saw him at West Michigan one game, and it's like, okay, that guy, he's a dude.
He's damn good, and he's a starter, but he has solely come out of the bullpen this year. I think for some guys that's also a innings management type of thing, that it means you're probably going to throw a little bit less if you're starting. I mean, he does have 11 innings to his name versus Hill has just 5, but it's sort of that, let's really take this inning by inning with Jaden Hill. And I think that there's a lot that has to – I think for him just to feel the pitching again, he's had a lot of injuries, and I'm sure that just finding repetition has been hard. So this is a good way for him to just rebuild and start small. But I think to your point, this is showing there's probably not the longest leash. I think he'll start next season as a starter. But if things are not going well, you now have this pedigree where, okay, he knows how to come out of the bullpen now, and his stuff could probably play a lot better there.
Yep.
But he's absolutely done his job, and I think that's the most encouraging thing, a 1.8 ERA. The one thing I flagged and I was a little concerned about is that he's already hit 2 guys in his 5 innings, which, that doesn't sound like a lot, but for 5 innings, that's a pretty fair amount. Nobody else on the Salt River Rafters has hit more than 1. There's only 6 total for the entire team in 159 innings. So for him to have hit 2 and 5, it kind of shows there's some things he's still working on, figuring out. But 2 walks is nothing crazy. That's solid. 5 strikeouts. He's getting the job done, and it gives you some hope. Hey, again, start small, keep it simple. Really, really hoping he can find his way wherever he goes. But hopefully as a starter, he can kind of, again, find his way.
In his time there, also his WHIP is at a 1.0. He's only allowed 3 hits in those 5 innings too. So when he is giving up stuff, it's not. He's not. When he is giving up walks, it's not being taken advantage of. So he does have that wipeout stuff when people are actually getting on and able to bring it back, which is huge.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if they'll give him the push to AA, because usually you don't want to have guys repeat, but he's one. It would make some sense to have him repeat before he faces some really good hitters. But anyway, on the topic of the bullpen and pitching, someone you can't quite throw him in that breakout category, but Juan Mejia, and I'll always remember.
Love that guy.
It was 2 years ago. We talked to Stephen Rice, and that was one of the guys. I think he brought up Mejia like twice. And I was like, I think I had heard of them, but I wasn't really sure what to think. But Stephen Rice was on that, and this is a kid who he shoves. And there's been he's walked more guys than he has innings pitched, but he also has 13 strikeouts in 5 1/3 innings so far. That means he's gotten 16 guys out, and 13 of them are via strikeout. So the stuff is absolutely nasty with Juan Mejia. Would love to see him clean up that control, but you're looking at another guy right there who has established himself as a potential bullpen guy going forward. He was in AA most of the season, so he's right there on the radar.
That translates, those numbers you just gave, translates to 21.9 strikeouts per 9. Just saying. Just saying. Almost like a Roger Clemens, Kerry Wood type starter there. But the walk rate you just said also translates to 10 walks per 9. So getting that control in the Arizona Fall League, his wipeout stuff, it's been nuts. Like, I was able to watch him in Hartford towards the end of the season, and his stuff is good. He's a little erratic. He's got to figure it out. He's young. He's got that reliever closer mentality. Like, I'm a dog. I'm out here, and I will strike you out in whatever way I need to. I'm going to come for you. And it's just that seeing red type mentality when he's on the mound. It's really fun to watch. He's got the Fernando Rodney hat tilt, got a little bit of swag when he's getting on the bump. He is fun to watch, and his stuff is pretty nasty. He's gonna be interesting to watch in 2024 as he tries to kind of develop that next level up.
Yeah,
and be fun.
Staying more and more in the bullpen, Alec Barger, who was a trade deadline acquisition, came in that Brad Hand deal, and at the time it was like, hey, this is really a non-flashy name, but I mean, especially in the fall league, he didn't have the greatest Rockies debut in Hartford. He had an 11 ERA, over 11 ERA, but in the fall league so far, 5 innings with no walks, 7 strikeouts, and he's only given up 1 run that came via a solo shot. So he's definitely locked it up this year. I think that's a trend. I would love to, we'll have to try and talk to him at some point. Like, what is being traded midseason like in the minors, and how do you adjust? Like, you get new coaches, and it's not like you're a major league guy where everyone is going to, okay, we just got this new guy. The coaching staff's going to take a whole night and watch all the tape and all this stuff to make sure they know exactly what they're doing. This is the minors. I don't know if these guys have all the time to be doing that. He comes into a system and maybe things were a little bit rocky at just starting, feeling comfortable. But he goes to the fall league and he has been nails.
He's one I'm really intrigued by. Just coming from Atlanta to the Rockies system, there's definitely a change of philosophy there. There has to be. Like, there's no way the Rockies and the Braves are doing the same thing. But I like his stuff. He was fun to watch a little bit with Hartford at the end of last season. His numbers didn't show it, but like, there's something there. Whether it's a middle innings relief kind of guy to kind of get to that next level, but he has the stuff to be there. He's gonna be fun to watch. Case Williams, he's gotten 3 starts, 3.24 ERA. He's one that's going to be knocking on the door next year. I could see him getting a few starts next year. But 10 Ks in his 8.1 innings. Jaden Hill, we talked about. I think that's all the pitchers that we have going. Oh, Chris McMahon.
Yeah, I forgot about Chris McMahon. You caught it. I made the rundown, forgot Chris McMahon, and then saw you had included him in there. So
see, this is why we're a good duo. We pick each other up. We cover each other when we need to. But yeah, 3 games, 1 start. Hasn't gone well. 14 hits in those 5.2 innings. 8 earned runs, 6 strikeouts. Only the 2 walks, but it's those hits that kind of got him a little bit last year in Hartford. It was a lot of hits. The controls there, the commands there, but it's the stuff making it not hittable is something that he's working on. And the dude man's been injured off and on. Like this is his rehab. This is his rehab starts because he finished the season on the IL. I think it was last like month or two. I think maybe even longer before he's getting this time at Arizona Fall League. So taking those numbers with a grain of salt, coming off an injury as a rehab type situation, his stuff is still there. I know you're still high on Chris. I need him. I want him. I know he does. He's a grinder. He's a dog. I just want him to like see some kind of success soon, so that next level can be attained.
Yeah, I'm still holding patient with him. The stuff was really good coming out of college. His first year in the pros was insane too. He just went straight to high A and was really consistent the whole year. Nothing super flashy, but for him to have been just really stable his first year in the pros, skipping the lowest levels, that was super impressive. And I think he had a shoulder. No, I think he had a shoulder injury for like an entire year, and I think that has sort of sapped some of his arm strength. He's still working back from that. And I'd be really curious to see, and because I haven't, watched Hartford starts, I haven't seen what he's done in the Arizona Fall League. I'd be curious where his velocity is. You would think, well, usually when you see numbers like this where there's 14 hits in 5 2/3, I feel like he's not sitting where he used to in terms of velo. He was a guy drafted, he was 93 to 95. You got to think now because he's still trying to figure out that slot, his arm circle, everything, and just getting that same whip. He might be 91 and 93 right now, and that just doesn't quite work with the characteristics that he has otherwise. So that's me making an assumption, giving him the benefit of the doubt that he still needs to get his arm strength back. That's sort of what I'm thinking though, based on what's happened, and that's another reason to be patient. Let the guy have some more time. Really, I think where judgment starts is next season. We'll see where the Rockies put him. I think putting him in AAA would be kind of not great. Nobody does well in AAA for the Rockies. It's just not possible.
Right.
So
it's not.
I'd almost want to see him repeat AA, and I hope he would just understand, like, okay, this is actually the highest level I can be at where I will find success, where it's normal to pitch here.
Right.
I'd love to see him in AA and just see what happens, because he's someone who could start very soon for the Rockies if he can hit the ground running in 2024, wherever he starts. He's right there on the doorstep.
There are a few names that right there. So hopefully he comes around. And then the hitters, we got Benny Montgomery, Sterling Thompson, Drew Romo. Quite a list of names. So we start with Benny, who still has yet to. I mean, he's 2 seasons in, so like, don't let me be too extreme about it. But who's yet to like really play a full healthy season. He was doing pretty well in Spokane this year. Had very good moments. Then he got injured, and then had to come back injured a few times back and forth. So he's in the Fall League right now with the 373, 468, 510 slash, 1 dong, 6 RBI, or 6 stolen bases, and then 9 walks to 17 strikeouts. I think that 17 strikeouts is kind of high. I don't know quite how many innings. What are we? Probably 15 games in, maybe. I don't know.
It's he's got 62 plate appearances, 17 K, so it's a little bit below a third. I'm thinking that's like 29-ish%.
27. Yep, 27.
Okay. So, I mean, 27 is not the worst thing.
No.
Like, really, the 30 mark is where it's like, okay, that's just, like, not good. High 20s, of course, you want to see it go down, like, a tick from there. But, guys are going to be fine. Like, he could be fine with a high 20 strikeout percentage because he still does. It's funny to kind of juxtapose these together. He still does make a lot of contact. Like, a lot of strikeouts doesn't mean you don't make a lot of contact. It means maybe your approach needs to tighten up with 2 strikes. But I mean, if you're swinging and missing with 2 strikes, it's you don't have to swing and miss at a high rate with 2 strikes to have a lot of strikeouts. Some guys, you think of your Raimel Tapias of the world, they're like, I'm not striking out. In some ways, it's better to like strike out than it is to do what Raimel Tapia would do and hit a lot of weak ground balls. So I'll give Benny the benefit of the doubt for now. We're saw the power with the homer. We're seeing the speed. He's played center field, 6 stolen bases, and he's getting a ton of hits. And that comes down to he makes a lot of contact, and it's good contact. I'd rather have a guy strike out 27% of the time and make good contact than strike out 15% of the time and he's hitting 300.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be great if you're hitting 300 with a 15% strikeout rate. But Benny's hitting 373 right now.
Yeah.
He's getting the job done.
His stuff is there. And with the big strikeouts, if you're going to have big strikeouts, you're going to want big walk rates. And he's at a 15% walk rate right now, too. So with those nine walks and 62 plate appearances, that's definitely above league average if you're looking at the major league standard. Sterling Thompson, I love this man. I know you're going to talk about him later. It's 13 walks to 16 strikeouts. 4 doubles, 2 triples. Doesn't look like any dongs yet, but he's not really that kind of guy. He might get you 10, 15 in a season with the doubles and triples being a little bit higher. But a 521 slug, a 492 OPS, just insane numbers from Sterling Thompson. Do we see him in purple next year? Does he kind of get the Hunter Goodman type treatment next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm curious to see how he finishes this fall league stint because his average was over 400 for like the first 10 games. The last 3, I think he's slowed down a little bit, but it's hard to maintain a 400 average. Like you could go 1 for 3 and your average is lowered from 400. So curious to see where he finishes off this fall league stint because he could put himself in position to start in AAA, which would be different from like a Hunter Goodman. He could start in AAA, and I think someone like Sterling Thompson is going to have a lot of fun in AAA.
There's going to be something happening. Yeah.
I think he'll hit some early homers. He'll run a 420 on base percentage or something like that. And I think he will be in purple by July. We're getting some of those takes rolling already. I think Sterling Thompson in July.
Sterling Thompson in July. I would tend to agree. I'm on my pedestal that he is the most MLB ready bat in the entire system, even with guys like Coco and Shunk in the minors, Jimmy Herron. I still think Sterling Thompson, just his bat is going to play no matter what. Just he's been insane. He struggled a little bit at Hartford, but I mean, who doesn't? It still had a 333 OPS, 429 slug in that time up there. And was still walking 15 walks and 144 plate appearances. So right around that 8-9% that you're looking for. I love Sterling Thompson. I wasn't a big fan of when we drafted him. I didn't know what he was going to be, what we were going to do with him, but he's proved himself pretty worthy, especially when he's healthy. He struggled with some injuries at the beginning of this past year too. And then the prodigal son, not to put that title on him, Drew Romo. Drew Romo, Arizona Fall League, struggling a little bit. 182, 308, 318 slash with 1 double, 1 triple. 4 walks to 4 Ks, so you do like to see that a little bit. I'm assuming with those numbers, he's not getting as much playing time as the other guys with the catching. I'm sure it's like a rotation of probably 3 catchers down there, so consistency is probably hard for him to find down there. But Drew Romo, getting that extra work in, getting that fall league stuff in there, working with other pitchers, continuing to get better after his kind of roller coaster of a year of 2023, but it ended on a very good high note. With Drew Romo. So you taking anything away from that? You just kind of saying, it is what it is. Where you at with that Drew Romo fall league stat line?
Yeah, for now it is sort of whatever. He's got 6 starts, or just he's appeared in 6 games. I don't know if that's 6 starts, 26 plate appearances. Like that's definitely that's a week's worth of playing time. You know, that's not even the worst. If you have that week in the minors, like you're not disappointed. Like a 308 on base percentage. He's walked 4 times so far to 4 strikeouts, which I think is a little bit intriguing. And I think something just to recap all 3 of these guys, all like Benny, Romo, and Sterling Thompson, they're all drawing a fair share of walks. And that might be sort of the directive they were given going to the fall league. I think you send these guys out and you want them to play their game, but it's also a really good opportunity to kind of work on some things. Or at least just to play the game with a slightly different mindset. And we all know the Rockies do not have a lot of guys who draw walks. And if they can get some of their guys to push their walk rates up, you're going to see huge benefits at the MLB level. So I think what I'm seeing, and Drew Romo sort of is a cherry on top of this, because he's not a guy who has walked a lot in the minors. But between Thompson, between Romo, and between Benny Montgomery, I'm trying to do 26 walks between the three of them. And again, you're looking at that's in less than a month worth of games. That's in basically 2 weeks worth of games.
Yeah.
So you're seeing those three guys all looking a little bit more mature at the plate. And the results have been crazy for Benny and Sterling with Drew Romo coming along. And also, yeah, like you said, there's three catchers there. He's like maybe getting 2 starts a week. You're not going to find the best rhythm.
No, not at all. So that's the Arizona Fall League update. It's just fun to see this many guys. We had some guys there last year, but it wasn't like 8, 9 deep. I think we had maybe 3 or 4, like Zach Veen. That's all I know for sure. I'm not even going to go down that road. But it just seems like we have a lot of Rockies prospects there this year where we didn't quite see that last year. So, and some of these friends of the pods like Case Williams and Chris McMahon doing their thing. It's good to see. It's good to see them getting recognized. And usually that Arizona Fall League is the system seeing you. All right, we see you. You need to work a little bit extra. We want you to go to do this where you're not maybe quite ready for a winter league ball team somewhere else. So love to see that. So before we get into our special guest in a little bit, your mom's going to be pretty excited. So make sure you tune in with your mom after our little recap here. Let's talk our current top 5 prospects, where we're at now. So you, me, we'll start at 5. Maybe we'll start with our honorable mentions and go down to 1 and get there. And this is brought to you by Daily Controls. Got to give our one sponsor some love. Don't have a Controls pitching of the week. I should have probably thrown that in there. But Daily Controls, it does any of your automation needs. Go check his website out at dailycontrolslsc.com. Just he'll travel to you. He'll go to Denver. He'll go to Hartford. If you need some kind of engine fixed or some mechanics figured out, he's a very smart dude. He knows what he's doing. So holler at your boy, Daily Controls, if you need some automation fix. Still don't know what that means. I've talked to this man about once a week for the last 10 years of my life. I still have no idea what that means. But he is a very bright dude. I love him. Give him some love. If you do need anything, he will travel to you. He goes down to Mexico like once a month. So he will get to you. Top 5 prospects. Start with your honorable mention, Tyler, and then we'll go down the list and we'll try to get this done before our mom's excited.
Yeah. So for me, my 6 and 7. So I'll do I didn't list them in the rundown, but my 6 and 7, and I don't even know how I'd order them. It's Jordan Beck and Drew Romo. I think those are my 2 guys just outside the top 5. And that's no knock on them because both of them in the end Beck, of course, we all saw what he was doing most of the season. He had like 25 homers. Drew Romo ended up having a good season. It was above average production. That's my 6 and 7. Again, I don't know how to rank them.
They're there.
And even number 5, it's kind of a little interchangeable at the back there.
I should have prefaced this. I think you and I look at top 5 prospects a little bit differently. So when I'm giving my list, I'm thinking who's going to kind of be making noise at the major league level soon. Like Nolan Jones was like a number 3, number 4 prospect for me going into last year, where I think Nolan Jones might have been like a 10 spot for you going into last year.
Yeah.
Tyler and I look at this a little bit different. I'm very, what is my prospect going to do for me soon type on my list, where I think Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of the future what gains down the road where we're at, like the true prospect looking at it. So keep that in mind as we go through this. Like my number 5, even though I just ranted a rave about it and I think he's going to be there, or my number 6 is Sterling Thompson, honorable mention. Just being that ready, I do think he'll make his major league debut this year, but I also think some of my other guys might be up there a little bit sooner with a bigger impact to maybe, so to speak. I think Sterling Thompson is too much Brendan Rodgers-like to really make a stand like that, make some noise, like kind of like what we saw with Nolan Jones. Like Sterling Thompson is going to be more Brendan Rodgers than Nolan Jones as a professional. That's where I'm at.
You wouldn't want to throw the comp around. Obviously, they're very different, but I definitely see what you're saying from a production standpoint.
Yeah,
I hope he can be a little more stable than Rodgers, but that would be a good outcome even.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's the outcome is still there, still what you want. It's just, it's not the awe-dropping thing that I think we all want from these prospects. Got to keep a perspective. I've been on the prospect hype train a few times where I had a derailed. Like, this guy's terrible. He didn't do what I thought he was going to do, but he's still a successful major leaguer down the road. Like, okay, so let's tame this down a little bit.
My number 5, Benny Montgomery, and kind of going off what you just said, with him, if he ends up being a Brenton Doyle type of big leaguer, like no one's going to be that upset. But I think what he's shown in the fall league, we didn't really get to see him consistently this season. It was like an injury here, an injury there. Like he didn't have any serious injuries, but it seemed like he missed like a week or two multiple times throughout the season, kind of derailed again that rhythm that you want to see guys build up. But right now he's my number 5, and a lot of that just comes down to he's super fast, he's a good center fielder, and there's enough there offensively. I think he makes a lot of contact. I think he's still figuring out his swing, trying to hit for power, trying to tighten up with 2 strikes. But I think there's enough with the bat that he's going to end up being that two-way guy. Goes out there and picks it in the field. At the plate, he's going to be, hopefully at least close to average with the bat. So it's hard for me not to put him in the top 5, even though I like someone like Jordan Beck a little bit more at this time. But Benny Montgomery, you can't deny the speed and the defense that he's going to bring to a ball club.
I'm excited for 2024 where I can actually sit down and watch Benny Montgomery a little bit more. Like I'm watching 100 Yard Goats games a year, just time-wise and everything. And I haven't been able to quite buy into Benny because I don't think I've seen him enough. And I think he does everything well, nothing outstanding, kind of like what you're saying. So I think just that above average tool set across the board, I think will finally come up to show in Hartford. I'm starting to buy a little bit more on Benny there. My number 5 is Drew Romo. Again, I think he will be a Rocky by the end of the upcoming season. He's going to have some struggles, but I was just so impressed with how he handled his 2023 season. If you've listened to us at all, I'm huge on what are you going to do when times get tough. And again, Drew Romo never had that opportunity in college, never had that time in high school because, I mean, who struggles in high school if your name is Drew Romo? But like he never had those trials and tribulations where he finally had to go through that in 2023, and he figured it out. The last few months of his season, he ended September with 11 games with a 395 batting average, 790 slug, which is absolutely insane, with some help from Albuquerque. But even then, he was hitting 536, OPS 536 in April, and May was 590. Got up to 800 for June, July, and then finished strong in September. Just the fact that he was able to kind of make those adjustments and do it. And how many prospects do you know had 2-3 home run games in a season? Like I could have just said that and just stopped talking. Like that's impressive. I just think what was able to do this year needs to be recognized and should be go forward. It's cool.
Yeah, people are not giving him the credit that he deserves for this year. Did not have a great start to the season, and if you were to talk to a lot of fans, they would think he did not have a great season. But he finished with above average production in Double-A, and that is not something you see all the time for a young hitter. It's impressive, and especially for a guy who's supposed to be a really good catcher first.
Yep.
But flipping the switch, hopefully someone who's throwing to him quite a bit in the future. I have Chase Dollander at number 4 on my list. We didn't get to see him this year. I was a little bummed about that, but in the light of all these Tommy John surgeries we saw this year, I'm okay if they want to really play it safe with his arm. But I think this is the best pitching prospect they've had since John Gray. When you think about what they were in the minors, obviously German Marquez ended up being better than John Gray, at least with the Rockies. This is the best pitching prospect since John Gray. You don't see these guys come around that often. Just starting their pro career with a ton of hype. A lot of guys build that hype after a year or two. They're like your Spencer Striders drafted in the 3rd round, and they just hit the ground running. Hopefully Chase Dollander can hit the ground running with the hype he already has. It's big stuff. Really excited to see him in 2024. That's one of the things I'm most excited for, and he could be, in Rockies purple like early 2025. It's going to take him a year plus, but 2025 is not out of the question.
Dude, Victor Vodnik, Evan Justice, Gavin Hollowell, Chase Dollander, Dugan Darnell, like there's some talent in this armbar coming up. I love that. My number 4 is Joe Rock. Again, gains from season before to where he's at now. Just he is that strikeout guy that I've been wanting for a long time. He was able to do that consistently at Hartford. He did struggle the third time through the lineup. Like his fifth and sixth inning ERAs jumped up to 11 plus in that time, but his 1 through 4 was around 3. So that third time through the order kind of kicked his butt a few times, but 90 innings pitched with 108 strikeouts. And the other thing that kind of really stood out to me was his left on base percentage. So in 2022, he struggled with runners on base. He was just terrible. He had left on base percent went from 44% in 2022 to 69% in 2023. So he was able to figure out how to get people out while they were on base. So that was huge. And the fact that he can just strike you out whenever he wants and just insane. Like he tied the Hartford yard goes if net break it in strikeouts in a game with 12 or 13, which was so much fun to watch. So Joe Rock, I also think he's going to be a Rocky this year. He'll be that 6th, 7th, 8th guy, depending on who they bring in free agency, which is nobody because it's the Rockies. Nobody wants to pitch there. But Joe Rock is going to kind of get that Carl Kaufman, Noah Davis treatment in 2024, I believe. And he's going to impress. He's going to get out there.
Yeah, and there's just not that many lefties out there who get strikeouts like he has at the upper levels of the minors. So absolutely excited about him. Sterling Thompson is my number 3. We've talked about him a lot already, so I don't need to do too much more with this. But I think there's like top of the order potential here. A guy who can hit over 300 at the big league level. I think that's sort of going to be his MO. I think you coined it. He's a 10 to 15 homer guy. Maybe in his future hits 20. That's not because he doesn't have power. He has a lot of power, but he's a line drive hitter, and he's not going to sell out for power. He's going to hit, and I don't know where he's going to play. I think that's sort of the question right now. Is he a second baseman, third base, left field, right field? Maybe all of the above, and that almost makes him more intriguing to me. That you get this positionless guy who's going to hit. Like you coined it also, him being the most MLB ready bat. I'll stick with Amador, but Thompson is also right there. Like Thompson is a very pure hitter, lots of contact, lots of good contact. I'm stoked for him.
Yeah, he's gonna be good. I'm gonna give my number 3 and my number 2 because they're very similar players. Jordan Beck is my number 3 and Yankiel Fernandez is my number 2. Very similar with the bat. You're going to get big strikeout numbers, low walk rates, but you're going to get big power. And I'm watching these MLB playoffs, Tyler, and there's one thing to success. It's dongs and starting pitching. And if you can do either one of those, and preferably both, you're going to be successful. And I think the Rockies have that power. You got Hunter Goodman, you got Nolan Jones up in the minors. And then you got Jordan Beck and Yankiel Fernandez right behind him who can just give you 25, 30 home runs any part of the season that you want, which, again, high strikeouts comes high responsibility and all that. But I just think there's so much there that the Rockies drastically need. And it's exciting. And the fact that Yankiel, again, my number 2 prospect, has the arm to match it. Like we all love Brenton Doyle. We all love Nolan Jones for what they can do with their arm and their defense. Yankiel might have just as strong of an arm as Nolan Jones, and nobody knows about it. Like what he did in the Futures game, go see those highlights. Just put it on the Twitter. It's out there, and I think Bryce McGowan said like if he got up on the bump, like Yankiel's probably piping 90, 95 on the bump. So it's just. That power really excites me. I was big on Nolan Jones for that simple reason. There's that untapped potential. And if each of them can just lower the strikeouts a little bit and kind of maybe hit a double instead of a home run every once in a while, it's going to be fun to watch. So Beck, my number 3, and Yank, my number 2.
So I similar-ish guy at number 2 for me. I mean, he has not shown the same power, but sticking with a guy that has had as much hype as any Rockies prospect in a long time, Zach Veen. Down year this season at the start, but we learned that he did, in fact, have a wrist injury that had been nagging him since really the end of the 2022 season. This was almost a year that he has this injury going on. He kept trying to play through it, and eventually it just got so bad that surgery was required. It sounds like he is playing winter ball in Puerto Rico. It is. So he's getting some of those missed reps. There's just so much still there with Zach Veen. He's the same, not quite the same tier of athlete as Benny Montgomery, but this is a kid who can play any outfield position. He has a strong arm. The raw power is insane. And he's shown at multiple stops, whether it was Fresno, Spokane, the Arizona Fall League last year, that he has the makings of a pure hitter also. 5-tool talent, it's all there. I'm so excited to see him with fully healthy. He could start in AAA. I don't know if they'll do that, but he played most of this year in AA. AAA is a logical spot for him to end up. And I mean, everyone was clamoring for him to make the big league roster last year out of spring training. And I think that was, again, he had rested enough that his wrist was sort of healthy. But yeah, there's franchise changing upside here. We've all kind of forgotten about it a little bit. And when he's healthy, we're going to see some really, really exciting things.
Yeah, and that's why I left him off my top 5. I just need to see that health. And again, he's delayed a little bit in that progression just because of those injuries. His talent is still there. I'm still big on his talent, but I need to see it healthy for a while. And then we both agree on Adel Amador, and anybody that's listening agrees that Adel Amador is the number 1 prospect in the Rocky system. I'll add my 2 cents, then you add your expertise. Then we'll kind of finish it with that. Dylan, we can answer your question too. We got to get ready for our interview with your mom's favorite player shortly. But Adel Amador, just, I don't know. There's just something about this man that, like, we loved him. We loved him in 2022, Tyler. But then 2023 hit, and we're like, holy crap. He found the power in high A, along with the patience, like 31 walks to 26 strikeouts. Insane with that. And that's just at the AA level. Nope, that was high A. It's just the mature bat with it. Where does he play? I think we both are in agreement that he's going to be a second baseman as a major leaguer. It's just we haven't seen anything like this type of bat. Like, Tovar had the bat, had it with it. He grew very similar timelines with Amador. I think Amador is just like that next step. Yo, I'm ready. I'm here. Let's go ride.
Yeah, I've tossed this comp around before, and I almost don't want to make it anymore because he might never play again in Major League Baseball. Like, I see a lot of Wander Franco here, switch hitting, shortstop / second baseman, but insanely good hitter. And I'll kind of leave it at that for now. I want to answer Dylan's question since the homeboy dropped by and giving us some love here. For me, those guys, it's maybe Drew Romo. That's a possibility. I think the strong two who have
you got to put the
kind of
question
been
in there.
forgetting
What
about.
if they're not watching, Tyler? Hold on.
Oh, all right.
Who do you guys think will make the opening day roster that has not made their major league debut yet? Now go, Tyler.
So maybe Drew Romo, but I think the real strong candidates is Julio Carreras and Warming Bernabel. More likely Julio Carreras, since he played a fair amount at AAA. The Rockies might need a new backup middle infielder. Who knows what's going to happen with Alan Trejo? He has no more options left, and they're going to go into the offseason realizing that they have to make some space. Not saying he is for sure gone, but Alan Trejo is not a lock to stay on the roster, and Julio Carreras could be a pretty seamless replacement in 2024 on that opening day roster. So I think that's probably your strongest answer. I'd go number 2, Drew Romo.
I'm going to throw a curveball in here. I have 2 in mind for different reasons, but I think Willie McIver would be at the top of that list. I don't know. Austin Wins. You don't really have a backup catcher. I do believe the Rockies bring back Austin Wins. I think you agree with that as well. But if they don't, I think Willie McIver is that next stopgap before a Drew Romo or Braxton Fulford in that sense. And then my other guy, I love him. Hopefully we can get him on the pod, is Jimmy Neutron Huron. It just, he might be pushing. There might be an injury, 1 or 2 in those outfield. Like, you're pretty set with Brinson and Nolan. But then you have Sean Bouchard. Chris Bryant's going to be a first baseman. So you have this battle for that third outfield spot. Like, Chuck should be the DH. I think he's okay with being a DH now. So you have Sean Bouchard, Jimmy Huron. I think those are the 2 most major league ready guys. And I can see Jimmy making a push to make that major league roster. And I would love to see it because the way he played at the end of 2023, he deserves that shot. And they're going to compete. And I think so. Those are my 2 answers. Just Willie Mack, just because we don't really quite have that backup catcher, and Jimmy Herron just to compete with that third outfield slot. It's gonna be fun. There might be a relief pitcher that would make the opening day roster, depending on what they do with like Suter and some of those other free agents back there. Like you could see Vodnik made his debut. Gavin, maybe like a Michael Thompson.
The bullpen's a little jammed. I feel like they have so many guys already on the 40-man who are staying. So that's why I was looking towards that offense. You got the catcher position and then your backup middle infield position. That's I think really where you're looking.
And people forget about Julio. I really like that pick. Like he's a good ball player. Like, he came back after his injury. He was having fun. He brought some life to that Yard Goats team who was just dreadful this year. Just couldn't find it. And then like him and Warming came back around the same time. That left side was just all smiles and just brought some positivity, some flair to it. And then Julio's a dog. I like Julio. I can see him being a good middle relief, and he's already on the 40-man. He's already protected, so he might be getting that push there too. I like that pick. Anything else for the good of the cause, Tyler?
I think we have a session with someone that everyone's mom is going to love. So.
Yes, absolutely. We are not going live with Hunter. We're going to record it. You'll be able to watch it on the YouTube. I'm not going to tell you when because I have no idea when I'm going to be able to get that up. But you will be able to listen to it on the podcast form, which is more supporting us. And if you are a listener, go listen to us on a pod somewhere rather than YouTube. And that's going to be up tonight, along with the whole hour that we did on the minor league recaps. Tyler and I are trying to get our life together, trying to figure it out with our busy schedules. We hopefully will be coming with a traditional Blake Street banter conversation before the Rule 5 draft, before them when they start making their final roster spots in the middle of November. Hopefully we can come back around then or before then. And we're just going to keep doing our best to give you some content that you aren't quite aware of. There's so many things we didn't cover. We want to cover which prospect to make the big major league impact, the MIB Rule 5 draft, the 40-man roster stints. There were so many things that we wanted to talk about, but we didn't quite get to it. The fan questions, Tyler, we didn't get to the fan questions either. You all, thank you for sending those in. We apologize. We will get those. They're still on our list. We'll still have a rundown. Maybe we can get a few more for the next time. There's too many things to talk about in such a little time, but we are here giving you the different kind of content that the other guys are great, but they aren't giving you your mom's favorite player banter sessions. So sit back, relax, go ahead and listen to this now. And if you join us live, I appreciate you. Dylan, thanks for hanging out, dog. And we'll see you next time. And as always, go Rox Minor League Affiliates. Woo!